My name is Maria. I am 72 years old. My hair is white now, and my steps are slow. I live in a small care home near the edge of town. It is clean and quiet. The walls are pale and the rooms smell like soap. Every morning I sit by the window. I look at the trees outside. I watch the birds fly across the sky. Some days I smile when I remember my past. Other days I feel tears in my eyes. Sometimes I wonder, do you also keep memories like me? If you listen to my story until the end, you will understand my heart better. Please stay with me and write in the comments which country you are listening from. I was married once. My husband's name was David. He was a kind man. He made me laugh when I was young. We worked hard together and built a home full of love. We had 2 children, a son and a daughter. Their names are Daniel and Rosa. I gave them all my love. I cooked, cleaned, and cared for them every single day. David worked long hours at a small factory. He came home tired, but he always hugged the children before dinner. Our house was small, but it was warm. I made bread in the mornings, and the smell filled the rooms. Daniel loved to play outside. He liked running in the garden, kicking a ball and climbing trees. Rosa was gentle. She liked to sing while she helped me wash the dishes. Her voice was soft and sweet. I used to stop and listen to her because it made my heart full of joy. Years passed and the children grew older. They went to school, made friends, and spent less time with us. I understood that it was part of life, but it still made me sad. I wanted to hold them close, but they wanted to run free. David would smile at me and say, "They will come back. They love us." I believed him. One winter, David became sick. He coughed at night and felt weak during the day. I made soup and sat by his side. I read him short stories, hopping. He would laugh again, but he did not get better. The doctor came often, but there was little he could do. One night, David held my hand. He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Take care of the children, Maria. They still need you." I promised him I would. Later that night, he closed his eyes and never opened them again. My heart broke. The house felt empty without him. The silence was heavy. I hoped my children would stay close and help me, but they had their own lives. At first, they came often. They sat with me and brought food, but slowly the visits became fewer. Rosa got a job. Another city. Daniel married and moved far away. They said they would come when they could, but the days grew long and I waited alone. One spring afternoon, both children came to see me. I was happy, but their faces looked serious. They sat at the kitchen table and spoke gently. "Mama," Daniel said, "you cannot stay alone in this house anymore. It is too hard for you." Rosa took my hand. "It will be better if you live in a home where people can care for you." My heart hurt when I heard their words. I wanted to say no. I wanted to stay in the house where David and I raised our family, but I saw no other choice. I was too weak to fight, so I nodded, and a few weeks later, they took me to the care home where I live now. The home is not bad. The nurses are kind, but they are always busy. They bring me food, give me medicine, and sometimes smile at me. There are other old people here, too. Some talk with me, others sit in silence, lost in their own thoughts. Every day feels the same. Breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, dinner at 6. After meals, I sit by the window or walk slowly in the garden. The garden is small but has flowers. Roses, daisies, and tulips grow there. I watch the birds and wonder if they feel lonely or if they feel free. Most nights I lie awake in my bed. I think about my life. I think of David and our children. I remember Daniel's small hand in mine when I walked him to school. I remember Rosa singing while she brushed her hair. These memories are sweet, but they also make me cry. I ask myself, did I fail as a mother? Did I do something wrong? But there are no answers, only silence. One afternoon, a young girl came into the home. She was the daughter of one of the nurses. She smiled at me and said, "Hello, Grandma." Her smile was bright and kind. It reminded me of Rosa when she was small. The girl sat beside me and asked if I had any stories. I felt shy at first, but then I began to tell her about my childhood. I told her about the small village where I grew up, about the green fields and the river where we used to play. I told her about my best friend, Clara, and how we made dolls from cloth and twigs. The girl listened with wide eyes. She laughed at my stories and asked questions. For the first time in weeks, I felt alive. I felt like my words mattered to someone. After the girl left, I felt a strange mix of joy and sadness. I was happy to share my past, but it also reminded me of my own children. Did they remember my stories? Did they tell them to their children? Did my grandchildren even know about me? Sometimes, I wonder if they think of me at all. One evening, I asked a nurse if I could call Daniel. She gave me the phone. My hands shook as I dialed the number. When he answered, his voice sounded far away. "Hello, Mama," he said quickly. I told him I missed him and wanted to see him. He said, "I will try to visit soon," but his words felt empty, like a promise without weight. After the call, I sat in silence, holding the phone close to my chest. I missed David so much. He always knew how to bring the family together. Without him, everything had fallen apart. That night, I could not sleep. I whispered into the dark, "David, if you can hear me, tell our children to come. Tell them I am still here. Tell them I am waiting." My voice cracked and tears rolled down my cheeks. My heart felt too heavy to carry. Yet, even with the pain, I still held on to hope. I told myself that maybe tomorrow would be different. Maybe one of my children would come. The days in the care home moved slowly. Every morning, I woke up before the sun. I washed my face, put on my sweater, and walked to the window. The sky was often gray, but sometimes the sunrise filled it with soft colors. For a short moment, I felt peace. But when the light faded, the quiet returned, and I felt the emptiness. Again, the nurses told me to join small activities. They had music days, puzzle tables, and short walks outside. Some of the older people enjoyed them. but I often stayed by myself. I was polite, but my mind was far away. I kept thinking of David and the children. I thought about Rosa's laugh and Daniel's questions when he was young. I could almost hear them in my ears, but when I looked around, the room was empty. One day, a nurse gave me a notebook. She said, "Write your memories. It will help your heart." At first, I did not want to. My hands were weak and the pen felt heavy, but one evening I tried. I wrote about David and how he held my hand when he was sick. I wrote about Rosa's first school dress and Daniel's first football game. The notebook became my friend. Every night before bed, I wrote a little. It felt like talking to someone. Even if no one answered, I hoped one day my children would read it. I wanted them to see how much I loved them. I wanted them to know that I thought of them every day. But sometimes a sad thought came into my mind. What if they never read it? What if they were too busy to care? Those thoughts made me cry quietly in the dark. Life in the care home stayed the same. Meals at fixed hours. The sound of footsteps in the halls. The soft hum of a TV in the corner. Between breakfast and lunch, I sat by the garden. The flowers were simple but pretty. Red roses, yellow daisies, and white tulips. I watched the petals move in the wind. Sometimes small birds came and sang. They looked so free, and I wondered if I would ever feel free again. One afternoon, the same young girl came back. She was carrying crayons and paper. She sat next to me and said, "Can I draw you?" I smiled and said, "Yes." She made a picture of me sitting on a chair with a scarf on my shoulders. When she showed it to me, I felt a warm tear fall down my cheek. "Thank you, my dear," I whispered. She smiled and hugged me quickly before running back to her mother. Her visit stayed in my mind. It reminded me of my grandchildren, though I had not seen them in years. I did not even know their names. Daniel once mentioned them on the phone, but his words were quick. I wished I could hold them, tell them stories, and give them sweets like I used to. One evening, I decided to try again. I asked the nurse for the phone. I called Rosa this time. Her voice was tired but kind. "Mama, I am busy with work," she said. I told her I missed her. She said she would visit when she had time. Her promise was soft, like a leaf in the wind. I wanted to believe her, but deep inside, I was not sure. After the call, I sat with my notebook. I began to write letters. The first one was for Daniel. I told him about the care home, about the garden, and about the notebook that now held my heart. I reminded him of the days when he was small, when he used to climb on my back and laugh loudly. I told him I still loved him more than anything. The second letter was for Rosa. I wrote about her soft songs and how proud I was when she finished school. I reminded her of the times she sat with me in the kitchen singing while I cooked soup. I told her she was still my sunshine, even if she was far away. I folded the letters and gave them to the nurse. She smiled and said she would send them. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small hope. Maybe my words would reach my children's hearts. Maybe they would come The days after sending the letters felt long. I waited each morning for a reply. I listened for footsteps in the hall, for the sound of a letter sliding under the door, but nothing came. No calls, no letters, no visits. My heart ached, but I tried to be patient. The young girl came again a few times. She always brought a small drawing. Once, she drew me sitting with a book. Another time she drew a house with smoke rising from the chimney. She said, "This is your home." Her kindness warmed me. I kept the drawings in my notebook like treasures. One morning, I was surprised. A nurse came into my room with a white envelope in her hand. "Maria," she said with a smile, "you have mail." My heart beat fast. I reached for the letter with shaking hands. The writing on the front was familiar. It was Daniel's. I opened it slowly and read every word. He wrote that he was sorry for not visiting. He said his job was hard and his days were full. He said he often thought of me, but never found the time. At the end of the letter, he promised to come soon. He also wrote about his children. He said their names were Sophia and Matteo. They wanted to meet their grandmother. Tears filled my eyes. Relief and sadness mixed together. I read the letter again and again. I showed it to the nurse, who smiled and said, "See, they do care." Her words gave me hope. That night, I slept with the letter under my pillow. The next morning, I woke up early. I dressed quickly and sat by the window. I waited all day, hoping to see Daniel's car arrive. Every time I heard an engine outside, my heart jumped, but each time it was for someone else. Days turned into a week, and then 2 weeks. Daniel did not come. The hope inside me began to fade. I tried to hold on, but doubt whispered in my ear. Maybe he would not come, maybe his words were just another promise. Still, I told myself to stay strong. I held the letter close and whispered, "He will come. One day he will come." At night, I dreamed of David. In my dream, he stood by the door of our old house, smiling. He held my hand and said, "They will return, Maria. Be patient." I woke up with tears on my face, but also with a little strength. I wanted to believe David's words, even if they came only in a dream. The days kept passing. In the care home, I woke up, ate my meals, and sat by the window. The world outside moved quickly, but my life moved slowly. I waited for a letter, a call, or the sound of my children's voices. But still nothing new came. The young girl visited me again. This time she brought a picture of a family standing together under a big tree. She pointed to the figures and said, "This is you, Grandma. These are your children." My eyes filled with tears. I thanked her softly. I placed the drawing next to Daniel's letter. Those little gifts gave me a reason to keep hopping. One bright morning, I heard new footsteps in the hall. They were different, heavier, slower. My heart began to beat fast. The door opened, and there stood Daniel. He looked older than I remembered. His face was serious, but his eyes were soft. Behind him stood 2 children, girl and a boy. I could not speak at first. Tears ran down my face. Daniel walked closer and said, Mama, I'm here. I opened my arms and he leaned down to hug me. I felt his strong arms. And for the first time in many years, I felt like a mother again. The children smiled shyly. This is Sophia, and this is Mateo. Daniel said they wanted to meet you. I looked at them with joy. Hello, my loves, I whispered. They gave me small drawings they had made. One was a picture of a house with flowers. The other was of an old woman smiling. This is you, Grandma, Mateo said. Proudly. My heart felt warm and full. We sat together for hours. Daniel told me about his job, his wife, and his busy life. He said he missed the old days, the house, and even the garden where he once played. I listened too. Every word, holding each one close to my heart. I told him about the care home, about the notebook I kept, and about the kind little girl who drew me pictures. When Daniel and the children left, he hugged me again. I will come back soon. Mama, he said firmly. His voice carried more truth than before. I believed him this time. As they walked out, I felt both joy and sadness. The visit was short, but it gave me strength. A week later, I heard another familiar voice. It was Rosa. She came into the room and hugged me tightly. Mama, I am sorry, she whispered. I should have come sooner. We sat together for a long time. She told me about her work and her life in the city. She said she thought of me often, but always said to herself, next week I will go. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. She promised to change that now. I touched her hand and said, you are here now, and that is what matters. Rosa cried softly, and I wiped her tears, like I did when she was a child. For the first time in many years, I felt surrounded by love. After Rosa's visit, something changed. Inside me, the heavy silence in my heart grew lighter. Daniel and Rosa began to visit more often. Sometimes they came alone, sometimes they came together. Once Daniel brought his wife and Rosa brought flowers. My room began to feel brighter. The young girl still visited too. One afternoon she said, you look happier now. I smiled and told her. Yes, I am. She giggled and ran to her mother. Her words stayed with me. I realized I was happier because I was no longer waiting in silence. I was sharing moments again, even if they were small. One summer day, Daniel and Rosa came with their children. We all sat in the garden of the care home. The sun was warm, and the flowers moved gently. The breeze, the children laughed and played, running between the benches. Rosa sang softly while arranging the flowers on the table. Daniel sat beside me and asked about my old recipes. I told him how to make my bread step by step. He promised to try it at home. As I watched them, I felt David close to me. I remembered his smile, his voice, his promise that the children would return. He was right, even if it took years. They had come back. My heart, once heavy with loneliness, now felt full. The days in the care home still followed. The same rhythm: breakfast, lunch, dinner, nurses walking in and out. But now I no longer felt forgotten. I had letters, drawings and visits too. Hold on to. My children had not left me forever. They just needed time to find their way back. One evening, I sat in the garden with my notebook. The sky was painted with soft colors. The young girl came and asked, "What are you writing today?" I looked at her and smiled. "I am writing about love," I said. She tilted her head. "Love?" I nodded. "Yes, love is when someone comes back, even if it takes a long time." She smiled and her small hand touched mine. At that moment, I knew something important. Life was not about how much I gave or how much I lost. It was about the small moments shared with the people I loved. When I closed my notebook that night, I felt peace. I still missed David, but I knew he would be proud. I had kept my promise. I had cared for the children, and even when they were far away, I never stopped loving them. Now, as I sit by the window, I do not feel only emptiness. I feel gratitude. I am thankful for the visits, for the letters, for the laughter of grandchildren, and even for the drawings of a kind little girl. My story is not about being forgotten. My story is about waiting with love and finally being remembered.